Good morning. Today we'll discuss about the human ear and the mechanism of hearing. We know that ear performs two functions. One is hearing and another is maintenance of body balance. Ear is divided into three major sections. This is outer ear, middle ear and the inner ear. So the outer ear consists of pinna and the external auditory meatus, which is a canal. And the pinna collects the vibrations in the air, which produces sound, and the external auditory meatus or external auditory canal, it extends up to the tympanic membrane or the eardrum. So there are very fine hairs and wax secreting glands in the skin of the pinna and the meatus. So the tympanic membrane is composed of connective tissues, which is covered with the skin outside and a mucous membrane inside. The middle ear consists of three ear ossicles. These are malleus, incus and stapes, which are attached to one another in chain-like fashion. Malleus, incus and stapes. So they are attached in a chain-like fashion, and the malleus is attached to the tympanic membrane, and the stapes is attached to the oval window of the cochlea. So the ear ossicles, they increase the efficiency of the transmission of sound waves to the inner ear, and the Eustachian tube, you can see here, Eustachian tube connects the middle ear cavity with the pharynx. So Eustachian tube helps in equalizing the pressures on either side of the eardrum. So the fluid-filled inner ear, which is called as labyrinth, this part. So the fluid-filled inner ear, which is also called as the labyrinth, it consists of two parts, the bony and the membranous labyrinth. The bony labyrinth is a series of channels, and inside these channels lies the membranous labyrinth, which is surrounded by a fluid-filled perilymph. And the membranous labyrinth is filled with the fluid-filled endolymph, and the coiled portion of the labyrinth is called as the cochlea. So the membranes constituting cochlea, the resinous canal, the basilar, they divided the surrounding perilymph fluid-filled labyrinth into the upper scala vestibula and the lower scapula tympani. So let's see the next slide first. So these are the parts of the cochlea. So we see here that the bony labyrinth is a series of channels, and just a second. Bony series of the channels, and the membranous labyrinth is a fluid which is filled with cavity which is called as the endolymph. So this is a part of the membranes which are constituting cochlea. These are the resiners and the basilar. These are the membranes, resiners and the basilar membranes, scala vestibuli and the lower scala tympani. These are the membranes. So the space within the cochlea, which is called as scala media, that is filled with endolymph, and at the base of the cochlea, the scala vestibuli ends at the oval window, while the scala tympani terminates at the or end up at the round window which opens to the middle ear. The organ of Corti is a structure which is located on the basal membrane and which contain hair cells which act as auditory receptors. The hair cells which are present in rows on the internal side of the organ of the Corti, and the basal end of the hair cells, they are contact with the efferent nerve fibers. So a large number of processes called stereocilia, they are projected from the apical part of each hair cell. And above the rows of the hair cells is a thin elastic membrane which is called as tectoral membrane. Here. Now the inner ear also contains a complex system called vestibular apparatus. Let's see the previous slide. The inner ear also contains a complex system which is called as vestibular apparatus. Here you can see. And it is located above the cochlea. And the vestibular apparatus, it comprises of three semicircular canals and the otolith. A macula is the sensory part of the sacella and a tricle. Here. So each semicircular canal, it lies at the different planes at right angles to each other, and the membrane canals, they are suspended in the perilymph of the bony canals, and the base of the canal is swollen and is called as ampulla. Here you can see. This contains a projecting ridge which is called as crista ampullaris. This contains a ridge which is called as crista ampullaris, and it has hair cells. So the sacculae and the atricle, they contain a projecting ridge which is called as macula, and the cristae and the macula, they are the specific receptors of the vestibular apparatus. They are responsible for maintenance of the balance of the body. So what do you know about the mechanism of hearing, or how does our ear convert the sound waves into the neural impulse, which are sensed and then processed by the brain, and then we give the response to the sound. The external ear receives the sound waves and directs them to the eardrum. The eardrum vibrates in response to the sound waves, and these vibrations, they are transmitted through the ear ossicles, malleus, incus and stapes, to the oval window. So the vibrations, they are passed through the oval window on the fluid of the cochlea, where they generate waves in the limbs, and that induce a ripple in the basilar membrane. Here you can see the ripples in the basilar membrane, they are being caused, and these movements of the basilar membrane, they bend the hair cells which are pressing them against the tectoral membrane here. And as a result, what will happen? The nerve impulse, they are generated in the associated efferent neurons, and these impulses, they are transmitted by the efferent fibers with the auditory nerves, auditory cortex of the brains, and here the impulses, they are analyzed and the sound is recognized. We are able to recognize the sound of a particular type. So this is how mechanism of hearing is completed. Thank you so much.